88 million Americans say they're struggling or in a financial crisis right now. Not in 2008, not during the COVID shutdowns. Right now. And behind that number is an even quieter warning. 54% of Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck, which means the financial life of the average household may look normal from the street while being dangerously fragile behind the front door. The car is in the driveway. The kids are getting to school. The streaming services still work. The refrigerator has food in it. The paycheck still arrives every other Friday. Yet one delayed deposit, one emergency room bill, one transmission failure, one surprise insurance increase, or one stretch without overtime can turn a tight month into a debt spiral. The numbers come from Ramsey Solutions' Q1 2026 State of Personal Finance Study, based on a nationally representative survey of 1,095 U.S. adults conducted from March 3rd through March 13th, 2026. 34% described themselves as struggling or in crisis, compared with 22% in 2021. That's an increase of 12 percentage points, or about 55% relative to the 2021 level. The same report says the share living paycheck to paycheck rose from 42% in 2021 to 54% in 2026, while the share worrying about money every single day climbed from 44% to 53%. Now, I want to be precise because fear without context is not financial education. Paycheck to paycheck is a self-reported condition, not a standardized federal accounting category. Different studies can produce different estimates depending on how the question is worded. And not every person in that 54% would become homeless after one missed direct deposit. Some have retirement assets but little cash. Some earn high salaries and have allowed their fixed expenses to rise until every dollar already has a job. Some have savings but would have to drain them quickly. Others truly are one interruption away from missing rent, a utility payment, a car note, or a minimum. Credit card payment. The situations are different, but the common problem is the same. There is no margin. Margin is the distance between what comes in and what must go out. When that distance disappears, financial freedom disappears with it. You stop making decisions based on what is best over the next 5 years and start making decisions based on what prevents pain over the next 5 days. That is how a $700 repair becomes a credit card balance, how the credit card balance becomes a minimum payment, how the minimum payment reduces next month's margin, and how next month's smaller margin forces the next emergency onto the same card. The crisis rarely announces itself with sirens. It arrives as a collection of ordinary transactions, a copay, a grocery run, an electric bill, new tires, a school activity, a prescription, a rent increase. Nothing looks catastrophic by itself. Together, they can consume an entire paycheck before it reaches the bank. Picture a household outside Columbus, Ohio. 2 working adults. One earns $62,000, the other earns $44,000. On paper, they make more than $100,000 a year, so their friends assume they're doing fine. After federal and state taxes, health insurance, retirement deductions, and other payroll costs, their usable monthly income is much smaller than the headline salary suggests. Their mortgage, property taxes, and homeowners insurance take one large bite. 2 vehicles take another. Daycare costs more than their first apartment did. Groceries that once fit comfortably into the plan now regularly overshoot it. The family has a student loan payment, a credit card carrying the remains of a medical deductible, and a home repair loan from the summer their air conditioning system failed. They aren't buying designer clothes every weekend. They aren't flying first class. They aren't living some cartoon version of reckless consumerism. They are paying for a middle-class American life that has become more expensive to maintain. Then, one employer cuts overtime. Nothing else changes. The mortgage company still wants the same amount. Daycare doesn't offer a discount because overtime disappeared. The auto lender doesn't care that work hours were reduced. That family hasn't suffered a traditional financial collapse, but the math has already turned against them. That is the silent crisis. There is no single Lehman Brothers bankruptcy on television, no nationwide lockdown, no moment when everyone agrees that an emergency has begun. Millions of separate household emergencies are unfolding privately, one kitchen table at a time. Inflation is part of this story, but people often misunderstand what lower inflation means. If the rate of price increases slows, prices do not automatically return to where they were several years earlier. A grocery bill that climbed from $150 to $200 does not fall back to $150 merely because inflation cools. It may simply rise more slowly from the higher base. The same is true for rent, insurance, utilities, restaurant prices, medical care, and the cost of maintaining a vehicle. A household can receive a raise and still feel poorer if its essential expenses rise faster than its usable income. That gap is what people experience, regardless of what a national economic headline says. Wall Street can celebrate a strong quarter while a family in Arizona is choosing which medical bill to delay. The S&P 500 and your checking account are not the same economy. Asset prices matter. Employment matters, interest rates matter, productivity matters, and corporate earnings matter. But none of those numbers erase a negative household cash flow. Gallup's April 2026 research found that inflation and high prices remained the most frequently named family financial problem. Energy and housing costs tied for second place, with healthcare next, and a record 55% of Americans said their financial situation was getting worse. Gallup also found that 41% worried about paying normal monthly bills, 60% worried about covering medical costs after a serious illness or accident, and 62% worried about not having enough for retirement. Think about what that combination does to a person. You're worried about this month and 30 years from now at the same time. You're trying to pay the electric bill while wondering whether you'll ever be able to retire. You're making a minimum payment on dinner from 3 months ago, while your employer sends an email inviting you to increase your 401 contribution. You know investing matters, but the checking account is telling you that next Tuesday matters more. This is where shame enters the picture, and shame is expensive. It causes people to avoid opening statements. It keeps couples from discussing balances until a payment is missed. It convinces someone to use another loan to hide the first loan. It turns a solvable cash flow problem into a secret, and secrets collect interest. If money has been stealing your sleep, I need you to hear this clearly. A difficult financial position is not proof that you are lazy, unintelligent, or morally defective. You may have made mistakes. I've made money mistakes. Warren Buffett has made enormous mistakes. Every serious investor, business owner, and financial professional has a list of decisions they would reverse if time allowed. A mistake becomes dangerous when pride prevents you from naming it and changing direction. I'm Kunal, the person behind failed finance, and the reason I chose that. Name is simple. Failure contains information. It tells you where the system broke. It tells you which assumption was wrong. It shows you whether the problem was income, spending, debt, risk, timing, behavior, bad luck, or some combination of all six. Failure is an event. It does not have to become your identity. Buffett demonstrated that kind of honesty in Berkshire Hathaway's 2024 annual letter when he described taking control of the original Berkshire textile business as his mistake, one that burdened the company for 2 decades. Years earlier, he had called the decision monumentally stupid, explaining that irritation and stubbornness helped push him deeper into a deteriorating business. He found something that looked cheap, allowed emotion to influence the decision, and then committed more resources to it. That lesson belongs at the kitchen table as much as it belongs on Wall Street. A low monthly payment does not make something affordable. A discounted price does not make something necessary. Keeping an expensive vehicle because you're already upside down on the loan can deepen the loss. Defending a house you can no longer carry because selling feels embarrassing can imprison your income. Continuing to fund a lifestyle that worked 3 years ago, even though the numbers no longer work now, is the household version of pouring capital into a dying textile mill. The past expense is gone. The question is what the next dollar should do. Buffett's error did not prevent Berkshire from becoming extraordinary because the company eventually redirected capital toward businesses with better economics. Your household can do the same. You can redirect money away from recurring losses and toward resilience. But before we discuss the recovery, we need to understand the machinery of the crisis. American households carried approximately $18.8 trillion in total debt at the end of the first quarter of 2026, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. That included about $13.19 trillion in mortgages, $1.69 trillion in auto loans, $1.66 trillion in student debt, and $1.25 trillion in credit card balances. Total debt rose by $18 billion during the quarter, and 4.8% of outstanding debt was in some stage of delinquency. That $18.8 trillion figure is alarming, but it should not be used carelessly. A fixed-rate mortgage on a reasonably priced home is not economically identical to a revolving credit card balance used to buy groceries. A student loan attached to a high-value degree is not identical to an auto loan on a vehicle that loses value every year. A debt balance by itself does not tell you the entire story. You need the interest rate, minimum payment, tax treatment, asset value, remaining term, income stability, and reason the debt exists. Still, total debt matters because every required payment competes with saving, investing, and flexibility. The danger grows when expensive debt is financing consumption rather than an asset. When balances rise even though payments are being made, or when a household needs new debt to service existing debt. America has become very good at converting prices into payments. A phone isn't presented as costing $1,200. It is presented as costing a certain amount per month. A vehicle isn't discussed as a $48,000 purchase. It becomes a 7-year payment. Furniture becomes 12 installments. A vacation becomes points plus a balance. Groceries can be split into 4 payments. The payment may fit. The life may not. When enough small payments accumulate, future income is already spoken for. You haven't merely spent this paycheck. You have assigned pieces of paychecks you haven't earned yet. That is why a household earning $150,000 can live paycheck to paycheck while another earning $70,000 builds savings. Income matters enormously, especially when basic expenses are high, but cash flow structure matters too. A higher income with $9,500 of monthly commitments can be more fragile than a lower income with $4,000 of commitments and room to adjust. Financial strength is not what you earn. It is what remains after your obligations are met, how much of that remainder you keep, and how long your household can operate if income stops. The Federal Reserve's 2025 Household Well-Being Report adds another layer. 63% of adults said they could cover a hypothetical $400 emergency entirely with cash, savings, or a credit card paid off at the next statement. That means 37% could not cover it using those cash equivalent methods. 16% said they had not paid all their bills in the previous month, and 59% had experienced at least one major unexpected expense during the previous year, with vehicle repairs, home or appliance repairs, and medical expenses among the most common. Emergencies are not rare exceptions to a normal financial life. They are part of a normal financial life. Tires wear out, teeth crack, pets get sick, water heaters leak. Children need things on inconvenient timelines. Employers reorganize. Insurance deductibles reset. The exact event is unpredictable, but the arrival of some event is almost guaranteed. If your plan works only when nothing goes wrong, you do not have a plan. You have a temporary arrangement. The most vulnerable household is not necessarily the one with the lowest net worth. It is often the household with high fixed obligations, limited liquid cash, and no room to reduce spending quickly. Imagine 2 families with the same income. Family A has a larger house, 2 newer vehicles, several financed purchases, and $900 in combined minimum debt payments. Family B rents a smaller place, owns an older paid-off vehicle, and has fewer automatic obligations. Family A may look wealthier. Family B may be able to survive a layoff longer. Appearance and resilience are different measurements. Social media rewards appearance. Financial emergencies test resilience. That distinction matters because much of modern consumer life is designed to make financial stress invisible. You can finance the image of prosperity long before you own the foundation of prosperity. A high credit limit can feel like available money. It is not. It is available debt. a large home equity balance can feel like a safety net. It is an asset tied to a home, and accessing it can create another payment. A retirement account can make your net worth look healthy, but withdrawing early may create taxes, penalties, and long-term opportunity costs. Net worth matters. Liquidity matters too. The household balance sheet and the monthly cash flow statement must work together. This is also why blaming the entire crisis on coffee, restaurants, or streaming subscriptions misses the scale of the issue. Yes, recurring discretionary spending can damage a budget, especially when dozens of charges go unnoticed. But canceling a $15 service will not repair a $1,400 monthly housing gap. Skipping a $6 latte will not solve a childcare bill that rivals a mortgage. Personal discipline matters, but arithmetic has boundaries. Some people have a spending problem. Some have an income problem. Some have a housing problem. Some have a healthcare problem. Many have all four. If the gap is $100, small cuts can work. If the gap is $1,500, the solution may require a different job, a second income, a roommate, a cheaper vehicle, a housing decision, a benefits change, debt restructuring, or several of those moves together. The answer must match the size of the problem. At the same time, saying the system is difficult cannot become permission to abandon the parts you can control. Housing supply, healthcare pricing, tax policy, energy costs, interest rates, insurance markets, and wage growth are larger forces. You cannot personally rewrite federal policy before your rent is due. You can vote, organize, negotiate, and advocate, but your household still needs a survival strategy while the national debate continues. Personal responsibility and systemic pressure can exist at the same time. Recognizing one does not require denying the other. So where does recovery begin? Not with a hot stock, not with a cryptocurrency prediction, not with a complicated rewards card strategy. It begins with an accurate view of cash flow. The encouraging part of the Ramsey research is that budgeting appears to be making a comeback. Its executive summary says the share of Americans following a monthly budget increased from 47% in 2021 to 53% in 2026, with particularly notable gains among Gen Z and middle-income households. That may sound painfully basic compared with options trading, real estate leverage, or tax optimization, but a budget is not a beginner's punishment. It is a capital allocation system for a household. Berkshire Hathaway allocates capital. The federal government allocates capital. Every business allocates capital. Your family does too, whether you make the decisions consciously or allow due dates, advertisements, and emergencies to make them for you. The word budget has terrible branding because people imagine a spreadsheet scolding them for enjoying life. A useful budget is not a courtroom. It is a set of instructions written before pressure arrives. It answers 5 questions. How much usable income will arrive? When will it arrive? Which expenses protect life and income? Which obligations carry the greatest risk if unpaid? What amount can be directed toward tomorrow instead of yesterday? You do not need 50. Categories on day 1. You need truth. Pull the last 90 days of checking account and credit card activity. Do not rely on memory because memory rounds down. Separate the transactions into 5 groups. The first group is survival, housing, basic food, utilities, essential medication, and necessary transportation. The second is required financial obligations, minimum debt payments, insurance, taxes not withheld, and legally required expenses. The third is adjustable living, phone plans, internet. Tiers, restaurants, clothing, entertainment, and convenience spending. The fourth is irregular but predictable, car maintenance, annual premiums, school costs, holidays, registration fees, home repairs, and medical deductibles. The fifth is leakage, charges you did not plan, do not value, and may not even remember authorizing. Then calculate your survival number. This is not your preferred lifestyle. It is the minimum monthly amount required to keep your household housed, fed, insured enough to avoid catastrophic exposure, and able to reach work. That number becomes the floor of your plan. Next, calculate your committed number by adding minimum payments and all contractual obligations. Then compare both numbers with conservative take-home income. If income varies, do not budget from your best month. Use a lower, repeatable baseline. A commission check, bonus, or month of heavy overtime should not be treated as permanent income until it has proved permanent. When the committed number exceeds conservative income, you have a structural deficit. No budgeting app can decorate that away. Something major must change. If income exceeds commitments but nothing remains at the end of the month, you probably have a tracking, timing, or behavior problem. Those are serious, but they are often faster to fix. Your next move is to build a small gap between income and obligations. Not a perfect retirement plan. A gap. Find the first $100, then the first $300, then the first week of essential expenses. Sell unused items if that helps, but understand that selling possessions creates one-time cash, not recurring margin. Canceling an unused subscription creates recurring margin. Repricing insurance may create recurring margin. Eliminating a storage unit can create recurring margin. Reducing restaurant spending can create recurring margin. Moving to a lower-cost phone plan can create recurring margin. A side job can create recurring income, although you must account for taxes, transportation, childcare, and burnout. The quality of a financial move depends on whether it improves this month only or changes every month that follows. Protect food, shelter, utilities, essential healthcare, and transportation to work before sending extra money to an unsecured lender. That does not mean ignoring creditors. It means understanding priority. A bank may send the loudest email, but your family still needs electricity. Call lenders before the account falls behind when possible. Ask about due date changes, hardship options, fee reversals, or temporary payment arrangements. Get terms in writing and understand whether interest continues. Do not assume silence will improve the situation. Silence usually reduces your options. Then build what I call a shock absorber. Financial personalities argue over whether the first emergency fund should be $500, $1,000, 1 month of expenses, or some other universal figure. Your starting target should be connected to your real risks. If your vehicle is essential and has 160,000 miles, your likely shock may be a repair. If you have a high medical deductible, healthcare exposure matters. If you are self-employed, income volatility matters. A practical initial target might be 1 week of essential expenses or enough to cover your most likely near-term emergency without using a card. It will not protect you from everything. It is not supposed to. Its job is to prevent the next small problem from automatically becoming new high-interest debt. Keep that money somewhere safe, liquid, and separate from everyday spending. Do not invest your rent money in the stock market. Do not chase yield with cash you may need next month. The return on emergency savings is not only the interest paid by the account, it is the credit card interest, late fee, overdraft, panic, and bad decision the cash may help you avoid. If your employer offers direct deposit splitting, send a small fixed amount to the emergency account before the rest reaches. Checking. $10 or $20 may feel insignificant, but automation turns intention into infrastructure. Increase the amount whenever a debt is eliminated, a raise arrives, or a recurring expense is reduced. This is educational guidance, not an individualized prescription. I do not know your tax situation, benefits, health needs, state laws, family responsibilities, debt terms, or income stability. So use these principles as a framework and get qualified help when your circumstances require it. But no matter how complicated your financial life is, the first objective remains simple: stop the situation from getting worse. If you are adding $600 of debt every month, sending an extra $50 toward an old balance while continuing to create $600 of new debt is not progress. Stabilize cash flow, stop avoidable fees, cover essentials, prevent new debt where possible, build a starter buffer. Then attack the existing balances. If you're comfortable sharing, put one word in the comments describing the pressure that changed your budget most: housing, groceries, debt, healthcare, childcare, insurance, or income. You do not need to post private numbers. I want people reading those comments to see that they are not the only household dealing with this. Financial stress grows in isolation, but practical solutions grow when people compare honest experiences without competing or judging. And if this direct, no-shame approach to money is useful, subscribing to Failed Finance will help you stay with the process, because one burst of motivation is not enough to repair a system built over several years. You need repetition, measurement, and adjustment. Schedule a 20-minute money meeting every week, even if you are single. Check the current balance, bills due before the next paycheck, category limits, debt changes, and any unusual expense approaching within 30 days. The meeting should not become a weekly trial where one spouse prosecutes the other. The enemy is the gap in the numbers, not the person sitting across the table. Use neutral language. Instead of saying, "You spent too much," say, "Our restaurant category is $180 over the plan. What should we change before the next payday?" Instead of hiding a purchase, name it while there is still time to adjust. If one partner manages the money, the other still needs to understand the system. Financial knowledge concentrated in one person is a household risk. If you're single, create external accountability through a trusted friend, family member, coach, or reputable counselor. Singles in the Ramsey survey reported substantially higher levels of financial struggle than married respondents, which makes sense when one income must absorb every shock and there is no second adult's paycheck to offset a disruption. There is no shame in designing more protection around a one-income household. You may need a larger cash reserve, stronger disability coverage, lower fixed costs, or a wider professional network. The goal is not to copy someone else's percentages. The goal is to make your own life harder to knock over. Start measuring progress differently. A rising credit score can be helpful, but it is not the same as wealth. A larger credit limit is not savings. A tax refund is not automatically free money. It may represent overwithholding, credits, or changes in your tax situation. A paid-off card is progress only if the balance does not return. A raise is progress only if part of it improves margin, savings, debt reduction, or long-term investment instead of disappearing into new obligations. The most valuable number for a household in crisis is not net worth on a perfect market day. It is the number of days the household can function without borrowing. At 0 days, every expense is urgent. At 7 days, you can breathe. At 30 days, you can think. At 3 months, a job disruption is still painful, but it may no longer be immediately destructive. Time is what savings buys. It buys the ability to compare repair quotes instead of accepting the first one. It buys the ability to leave a harmful job without missing rent the following week. It buys the ability to handle a deductible without financing it. It buys the ability to say no. That is why the budgeting comeback matters. It is evidence that millions of Americans are not simply surrendering to the pressure. They are trying to regain control. A budget will not reduce the national price of housing, but it can reveal when housing is consuming the household. It will not change healthcare policy, but it can prepare for a deductible. It will not eliminate inflation, but it can force spending decisions to reflect current prices rather than an outdated lifestyle. It will not guarantee that an emergency never hurts. It can prevent a manageable emergency from becoming a multi-year debt. The silent crisis is real, but silence is optional. Open the accounts. Name the balances. Calculate the committed expenses. Face the number without exaggerating it and without minimizing it. You are not looking for a reason to feel guilty. You are looking for the point of intervention. That point may be one vehicle, one apartment, one insurance policy, one debt balance, one job decision, or 20 small recurring charges. Find it. Then direct the next available dollar towards stability. That number, your real monthly margin, is the point where panic begins turning into a plan. PART2. Once that margin is visible, protect it before you try to. Grow it, because money that exists only on a spreadsheet but disappears through overdrafts, forgotten renewals, mistimed bills, and impulsive transfers is not real margin yet. Give yourself 72 hours to build a financial control panel. On one page, list every source of take-home income, the expected deposit date, and the lowest amount you can reasonably count on. On another page, list every debt with its balance, interest rate, minimum payment, due date, and whether it is current, late, secured by property, in collections, or subject to a promotional rate that may expire. Then list the cash available across checking and savings without counting retirement accounts, available credit, or home equity. Available credit is not emergency savings. It is a lender's offer to let your future self pay for your current emergency. Next, create a 14-day bill map. Most people think in monthly totals, but many financial breakdowns are timing problems. You may technically earn enough during the month while still going negative on the 10th because the mortgage, car payment, insurance, and student loan all land before the second paycheck. Contact service providers and lenders to ask whether due dates can be moved closer to the paycheck intended to cover them. Some will say no. Some will allow a change after the account is current. Ask anyway. A good budget controls both the amount and the timing of cash. Set minimum payments on autopay only after confirming that the funding account can handle them. Autopay prevents missed dates, but an automatic payment hitting an empty account can create a different mess. Keep a small checking account floor that is not treated as spendable. It might be $100, $250, or another amount appropriate for your cash flow. The purpose is to absorb timing errors and small variations, not to fund lifestyle spending. If maintaining that floor is currently impossible, turn on low balance alerts and check the account daily until the situation stabilizes. Attention is temporarily part of the payment plan. Now separate the budget into two operating modes. The first is the normal plan, based on expected income. The second is the emergency plan, activated when income falls, a major expense arrives, or your cash reserve drops below a predetermined level. The emergency plan should already identify what pauses immediately, what can be reduced, which creditors must be contacted, and which assets could be sold without damaging your ability to earn. You do not want to design a crisis plan while your heart is racing. Pilots use checklists because emergencies reduce judgment. Households need checklists for the same reason. If income varies, stop pretending every month is average. The Federal Reserve reported that 30% of adults experienced at least occasional month-to-month income variation in 2025, and 11% said that variation had caused difficulty paying bills. The pressure was greater among self-employed adults. 58% reported variable income, and 22% said it had made paying bills difficult. For variable income, build the core budget using an income floor, not an average inflated by strong months. Look back over the previous 12 months and identify a conservative monthly amount that appears repeatedly. Use that floor to fund essentials and minimum obligations. Money above the floor should follow a predetermined order. Refill the checking floor, cover upcoming irregular expenses, restore emergency savings, pay targeted debt, handle taxes if they are not withheld, and then invest or fund discretionary goals. The strong month must support the weak month. Otherwise, every strong month creates lifestyle expansion, and every weak month creates debt. Consider a self-employed contractor who brings home $8,000 in April, $5,200 in May, and $3,900 in June. If the household builds recurring commitments around $8,000, June becomes an emergency. If the core plan is built around $4,500 and the April surplus is assigned deliberately, June may simply become a lower income month. The annual income is the same. The outcome is different because the cash was timed correctly. This leads to one of the most overlooked parts of budgeting, sinking funds. An emergency is something uncertain in timing or amount. A predictable expense that occurs irregularly is not an emergency. Christmas happens every December. Vehicle registration has a date. Annual insurance premiums are known. Children grow out of clothes. Cars require maintenance. Homeowners should expect something in the house to break. Divide the expected annual cost by 12 and save monthly. If vehicle maintenance averages $1,200 a year, the budget needs roughly $100 a month even during months when the mechanic receives nothing. Without that category, the checking account creates a false picture of available money. You believe you have $600 left, but part of it already belongs to the tires you will need in October. Sinking funds make the invisible future visible. Keep the system simple enough to maintain. You might use one bills account, one spending account, one emergency savings account, and separate digital savings buckets for irregular expenses. Paychecks enter the bills account. Fixed obligations remain there. A planned amount moves to the spending account for groceries, gas, and flexible categories. Emergency savings stays separate. This architecture reduces the risk of spending money that looks available but is already needed for rent. Some banks offer sub-accounts or savings buckets. A spreadsheet can accomplish the same thing. The tool is less important than the separation. Do not create 15 accounts if managing them will cause confusion. Complexity is valuable only when it reduces mistakes. Your emergency fund can then be built as a ladder instead of a single intimidating target. The first level covers a likely small shock. The second level covers 1 month of essential expenses. The third level moves towards several months, with the final amount depending on job stability, household size, health, insurance deductibles, income variability, and how many people depend on the income. A tenured employee in a 2-income household may need a different reserve from a commission-based worker supporting children on 1 income. 3 to 6 months is a common reference point, not a law of nature. Someone facing unstable employment may eventually want more. Someone with expensive credit card debt may temporarily hold a smaller starter reserve while attacking interest, but going to zero cash can be dangerous because the next repair simply returns to the card. The strategy must balance mathematical efficiency with behavioral and real-world risk. Suppose you have $5,000 in savings and $12,000 on a card charging 24%. Sending the entire $5,000 to the card saves interest faster on paper, but if your car requires a $1,500 repair next week, you may charge the repair and feel as though all your progress vanished. Keeping a defined starter reserve and applying the remainder to the balance may be psychologically and operationally stronger. On the other hand, holding $20,000 in low-yield cash while carrying $20,000 at a punishing card rate may be an extremely expensive form of emotional comfort. There is a middle ground. Decide on the reserve intentionally rather than allowing fear or overconfidence to decide for you. Then choose a debt attack method you can sustain. The avalanche method sends extra money to the highest interest rate while paying minimums on everything else. It normally reduces total interest fastest. The snowball method targets the smallest balance first, producing quicker wins and freeing minimum payments sooner. A hybrid can make sense. Eliminate 1 or 2 small nuisance balances to create momentum, then focus aggressively on the highest cost debt. What matters is that the balances move in one direction and paid-off accounts do not quietly refill. Stop measuring the plan by how excited you feel. Measure it by the balance at the same date every month. If the debt is not declining, determine whether interest, new charges, or fees are offsetting the payment. A card payment of $500 is not a $500 reduction when $300 of new purchases and $190 of interest appear during the same cycle. The net progress is $10. That may be painful to see, but the correct number gives you a correct decision. Keep credit cards out of the operating budget while paying them down if continued use. Makes the balance difficult to track. Remove stored card details from shopping accounts. Freeze the physical card if necessary rather than closing every account impulsively, since closures can affect utilization and credit history. The goal is not to worship a credit score, but preserving credit can matter for housing, insurance, and borrowing costs. Pull your reports from the federally authorized free credit report source and check for unfamiliar accounts, incorrect late payments, duplicate collections, and outdated information. Dispute genuine errors through the appropriate bureaus and keep records. Do not pay a company to invent a new identity or misrepresent accurate information. If accounts are already late, prioritize communication. Ask the original creditor what options exist. If the debt is in collections, verify the collector and the debt before providing bank information or agreeing to terms. Understand the tax and legal consequences of settlements and get promises in writing. Rules can differ by debt type and state, so qualified consumer law or tax guidance may be necessary. Be cautious with companies promising to erase debt for pennies while instructing you to stop paying creditors. Some settlement strategies may be appropriate in severe cases, but fees, damaged credit, collection activity, potential lawsuits, and possible taxable canceled debt can make the outcome very different from the advertisement. A reputable nonprofit credit counselor may be able to Explain a debt management plan, but ask about fees, creditor participation, account closures, and how the plan affects your monthly cash flow before enrolling. Bankruptcy is not a casual shortcut, yet it is also not a moral failure. For someone facing impossible unsecured debt, lawsuits, wage garnishment, or medical balances that cannot realistically be repaid, speaking with a qualified bankruptcy attorney may provide clearer information than years of panic payments. Education comes before. Commitment. Now look at the three expenses that usually determine whether a middle-class budget works: housing, transportation, and healthcare. Tiny cuts matter after the large structure is sound. They cannot compensate indefinitely for a house, car, or medical arrangement the income cannot carry. Housing decisions are emotionally difficult because a home is tied to safety, schools, identity, and community. Still, run the numbers honestly. Include rent or mortgage, property taxes, insurance, association fees, maintenance, utilities, commuting costs, and any debt used for repairs. If housing consumes so much income that every other category requires credit, the household may need a structural move. That could mean negotiating a lease renewal, taking a roommate, renting out a permitted space, moving at the end of a lease, appealing a property tax assessment when appropriate, shopping insurance, or selling. It does not mean everyone should immediately abandon a house. Selling has. Transaction costs. Renting may be expensive, and moving can disrupt work and family. Compare full scenarios rather than reacting to one payment. If you bought with a low fixed mortgage rate, downsizing might not save as much as expected after current financing costs and transaction expenses. If insurance and taxes have made the payment unaffordable, staying solely because the mortgage rate is attractive may still be dangerous. The correct question is not, is this home a good investment? It is. Can this household carry the total cost without sacrificing basic stability? Transportation deserves the same honesty. Calculate the payment, insurance, fuel, registration, maintenance, parking, and expected repairs. A $550 car payment may be an $1,000 transportation commitment after everything is included. Before trading a financed vehicle, request the payoff amount and compare it with realistic market value. Negative equity does not disappear when the car is traded. It may be rolled into the next loan, leaving you paying for a vehicle you no longer own. Sometimes the least glamorous choice, maintaining the current car while attacking the balance, is cheaper than repeatedly restarting a loan. Sometimes an unreliable vehicle threatens the income used to pay every bill, making replacement rational. Do not choose based solely on the dealership's monthly payment presentation. Compare total price, interest, term, insurance, and likely depreciation. A 7-year loan can make an expensive vehicle appear affordable while keeping the borrower underwater for years. Never risk your safety by ignoring essential repairs, but distinguish safety from cosmetics and convenience. Healthcare requires a different playbook because prices can be opaque and the stakes are personal. Review medical bills for duplicate charges, incorrect insurance processing, and services you do not recognize. Compare the provider's statement with the insurer's explanation of benefits. Ask whether an interest-free payment plan, financial assistance policy, or prompt pay discount is available. Do not place a medical balance on a high-interest credit card before asking about lower-cost options, because moving the debt can eliminate flexibility the provider might have offered. If you have access to an HSA-eligible health plan, understand the deductible, employer contribution, and whether the plan fits your expected medical use. An HSA can offer valuable tax advantages, but tax benefits do not make a high. Deductible, affordable by magic. If your employer offers an FSA, estimate elections carefully because plan rules can affect unused funds. Benefits and tax rules can change, so verify current details with the plan administrator and a qualified professional. Build a medical sinking fund around prescriptions, routine visits, and the portion of the deductible you are likely to face. The goal is not to predict illness. It is to reduce the financial damage when care is needed. Do not skip urgent or necessary treatment solely because a spreadsheet looks cleaner without it. The Federal Reserve found that 26% of adults skipped medical expenses because of cost during 2025, a reminder that financial fragility can become a health problem, and a delayed health problem can return as a larger financial problem. After the major expenses, examine payroll. Many people know their salary but have not reviewed a pay stub in months. Check federal and state withholding, insurance deductions, retirement, contributions, commuter benefits, HSA or FSA contributions, garnishments, and optional benefits. A large annual refund can be helpful, but if it results mainly from excessive withholding while you are carrying high-interest debt all year, reviewing your withholding with appropriate guidance may improve monthly cash flow. Do not make random tax changes based on an online calculator you do not understand. Life events, multiple jobs, self-employment, credits, and investment income can complicate the result. Use current official forms or professional assistance. Review employer benefits before buying private products. You may have disability coverage, legal assistance, mental health services, tuition support, certification reimbursement, employee discounts, or an employee assistance program you are not using. Benefits are part of compensation. Ignoring them can mean paying twice for something already available. Retirement contributions require nuance. If the employer offers a match, that match can be extremely valuable. Yet someone who cannot pay rent or is repeatedly overdrawing the checking account may need immediate stabilization before maximizing long-term contributions. Someone with a starter emergency fund and manageable cash flow may decide to capture the full match while attacking debt. Someone facing 25% credit card interest may choose a different balance between investing and repayment than someone with a low-rate student loan. Avoid extreme rules that ignore circumstances. Do not cash out a retirement account casually to solve consumer debt. Taxes, possible penalties, and lost compounding can make that decision far more expensive than it appears. And if spending behavior remains unchanged, the debt may return after the retirement money is gone. If the situation is severe, compare options with a fiduciary financial professional, tax professional, or attorney who can assess the complete picture. Income must also be part of the recovery because a budget cannot cut below zero. But earn more is not useful advice until it becomes a specific plan. Choose an income target and timeline. Instead of saying, "I need a side hustle," say, "I need $600 of additional monthly take-home income within 60 days without creating more than $150 in new costs." Then evaluate overtime, a weekend shift, freelance work, tutoring, contract services, a certification, a job change, internal promotion, or selling a skill you already possess. Calculate taxes, supplies, transportation, platform fees, and childcare. Revenue is not profit. A delivery gig producing $900 before fuel, maintenance, insurance, and taxes may not solve a $900 gap. A certification that raises base salary by $8,000 may be more powerful than years of exhausted gig work, although it takes longer. Short-term income can stop the bleeding. Career capital can change the long-term equation. Ask your employer what measurable outcomes would justify a raise. Document results, revenue created, costs reduced, responsibilities added, and market compensation for comparable roles. Do not build the request around personal bills. Employers pay for value and market scarcity, not because your rent increased. If the current employer has no path, update the resume before desperation arrives. Maintain relationships in your field. A professional network is a form of financial resilience because it can shorten unemployment. If you receive a raise, bonus, or tax refund, decide its allocation before the money arrives. A useful approach might divide it among current stability, debt reduction, and a limited amount of enjoyment. If every unexpected dollar goes entirely toward restriction, the plan can become difficult to sustain. If every unexpected dollar becomes a reward, the financial position never changes. Intentional enjoyment is different from untracked leakage. You are allowed to spend money on things that make life meaningful. The budget's purpose is not to remove joy. It is to make sure. The joy is purchased with money that exists rather than financed by a future you. Consider a composite case from Phoenix. A single parent brings home $5,300 a month. Rent, utilities, Childcare, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments, and basic food consume $5,050. There is technically $250 left, but vehicle registration, school costs, prescriptions, and repairs are not included, so the real budget is negative. Telling this person to stop buying coffee is insulting and mathematically useless. The plan needs structural moves. After reviewing benefits, the parent changes to a less expensive phone plan, removes 2 unused services, adjusts the work schedule to reduce 1 day of paid childcare, negotiates a small raise tied to expanded responsibilities, and sells a financed recreational item that was costing $190 a month. Those changes create $620 of recurring monthly room. The first $1,000 goes into a repair buffer. Then a $2,400 credit card balance is eliminated. The freed minimum payment adds another $85 to monthly margin. Nothing about this transformation is cinematic. No lottery ticket, no viral stock trade, no miracle. The household becomes stronger because recurring cash flow changes direction. Now consider a couple earning much more, $175,000 combined, but carrying a large mortgage, 2 luxury vehicle payments, private school tuition, financed furniture, and rotating card balances. Their issue is not insufficient gross income. Their issue is that the lifestyle has converted nearly all income into obligations. Their recovery may require selling 1 vehicle, pausing major travel, reducing tuition or housing costs, and acknowledging that a lifestyle can be unaffordable even when every individual payment is current. High earners often delay change because they believe the next bonus will rescue the system. Bonuses can help, but variable compensation should not support permanent commitments. If the family needs a perfect income year to remain solvent, the lifestyle contains more risk than it appears. This is where the phrase "one paycheck away" becomes less about salary and more about dependency. A person can earn $200,000 and still depend completely on the next deposit. Another can earn $60,000 and have 6 months of expenses saved. Income opens possibilities. Margin converts those possibilities into security. The Federal Reserve's report also found that 47% of adults ages 18 to 29 received help from someone outside their household to pay at least one expense during 2025, including assistance with phone bills, general expenses, housing, transportation, or medical costs. It also found that 49% of adults under 30 lived with a parent. That should not be used to mock younger Americans. It tells us that the launch into independent adulthood has become financially complicated. Living with family can be a strategic choice if everyone agrees on expectations, contribution, privacy, and an exit plan. It becomes harmful when there is no plan and. The arrangement enables unlimited spending. A young adult living at home might use the lower housing costs to eliminate debt, build an emergency fund, learn a marketable skill, and save for a move. Parents helping adult children should protect their own retirement and establish boundaries. Destroying your financial future to maintain an adult child's unsustainable lifestyle may simply transfer the crisis to the next generation. The same applies in reverse when working adults support aging parents. Name the obligation in the budget. Discuss what is affordable. Explore benefits, insurance, and community resources. Love does not remove arithmetic, but honest arithmetic can protect relationships from resentment. Couples should also decide what level of personal spending requires discussion. One household may choose $50, another may choose $500. The number matters less than the agreement. Give each adult a reasonable amount of personal money when possible, because a plan that requires. Permission for every coffee can create resentment and secrecy. Shared goals need shared visibility, but healthy autonomy can coexist with accountability. If financial conflict has become intense, use a neutral counselor rather than turning every money meeting into an argument about character. Money often carries childhood experiences, fear, power, and identity. One partner may respond to fear by saving everything. The other may respond by spending because scarcity makes the future feel uncertain. Neither behavior becomes healthy merely because it feels protective. The budget must be built around shared facts. After cash flow stabilizes, debt declines, and emergency savings grows, shift attention toward wealth building. Do not wait for a perfect economy. Do not wait until every headline feels safe, because that day may never arrive. Use tax-advantaged accounts available to you, understand employer matches, keep investment costs low, diversify, and choose an allocation you can hold through. Market declines. Money needed within a few years generally should not depend on volatile assets. Long-term retirement money can usually accept more fluctuation, depending on risk capacity and goals. Avoid turning investing into another emergency. A household that finally escapes credit card debt should not gamble the emergency fund on options, meme stocks, or concentrated speculation in an attempt to catch up. Urgency is one of the most profitable emotions on Wall Street for the person selling the product. There is no requirement that your recovery be exciting. Boring systems can produce extraordinary results. Automatic contributions, diversified assets, low fees, adequate insurance, and time will not generate dramatic daily content, but they can build a durable financial life. Review insurance as protection rather than an investment fantasy. Health, auto, homeowners, or renters, disability, and term life insurance may be relevant depending on your situation. The purpose is to transfer risks that would otherwise destroy the plan. A one-income family with children may need more life and disability protection than a single person with no dependents. An emergency fund is not a substitute for insurance against a catastrophic event, and insurance is not a substitute for cash needed to handle deductibles and excluded expenses. Read coverage limits. Understand deductibles. Check beneficiaries after marriage, divorce, births, and deaths. Keep critical documents where another trusted person can find them. A sophisticated portfolio cannot protect a family if basic legal and insurance details are neglected. Build a 90-day recovery scorecard with only a few measurements: monthly margin, cash reserve, total high-interest debt, number of late payments, and percentage of income committed to fixed obligations. Track them on the same date each month. A good month is not a month when you felt disciplined. It is a month when the numbers improved or a known emergency was handled, without destroying the system. If debt temporarily rises because of necessary medical care, record the reason and redesign the plan. Do not abandon everything because the line did not move perfectly. Financial progress is rarely linear. The goal is a trend. During the first 30 days, organize accounts, stop new avoidable debt, build the bill calendar, and identify the structural gap. During days 30 through 60, create the starter buffer, renegotiate expenses, correct due dates, begin the debt target, and pursue the income plan. During days 60 through 90, automate the new system, create sinking funds, review insurance and benefits, and increase the amount directed toward the highest priority goal. At the end of 90 days, ask what changed permanently. Did fixed expenses fall? Did income rise? Did the reserve grow? Did a balance disappear? Did communication improve? Temporary intensity can create cash. Permanent systems create stability. Keep one visual reminder of the goal that has nothing to do with shame. It could be the date you expect to eliminate a card, a picture of the child whose future you are protecting, the amount needed to leave a harmful job, or the first month in which every bill will be paid from money already in the account. Motivation fades, but meaning can pull you through the boring middle. If you have already begun rebuilding, share one action in the comments that made the largest difference. Not your income or net worth, just the action. Maybe it was selling a car, negotiating a raise, starting a weekly money meeting, deleting shopping apps, moving, calling a creditor, or finally opening every statement. Someone else may need to see that practical change is possible. The national numbers are enormous. 88 million adults describing themselves as struggling or in crisis, more than half reporting paycheck-to-paycheck living, and household debt near $18.8 trillion. But your recovery will not happen at the national level. It will happen in individual decisions. One bill moved. One balance named. One expense removed. One difficult conversation completed. 1 week of expenses saved. 1 month without adding debt. 1 raise pursued. 1 emergency handled with cash. Then another. The silent crisis became powerful because it grew through millions of small transactions, and stability can return through small transactions working in the opposite direction. You do not need to become a financial genius. You need a system that survives an ordinary bad month. You need enough liquidity to keep inconvenience from becoming catastrophe. You need fixed costs that leave breathing room. You need debt moving downward, savings moving upward, and a plan that reflects the life you actually have rather than the life you feel pressured to display. Failed finance is built around the truth that people can recover from bad timing, bad products, bad habits, bad advice, and plain bad luck, but only after the failure is examined honestly. Warren Buffett did not erase his textile mistake. He acknowledged it, redirected capital, and allowed better decisions to compound for decades. Your numbers may be smaller, but the principle is identical. Stop feeding what is weakening you. Protect what keeps you alive and earning. Direct new money towards strength. Keep doing it long enough for the direction to become a new financial identity. 54% may be living paycheck to paycheck, but that statistic does not own your next paycheck. Before it arrives, decide where it will go. Give part of it the job of protecting the present, part the job of cleaning up the past, and eventually part the job of building the future. That is how a household steps back from the edge. Not through one heroic decision, but through a financial life that no longer requires everything to go right.